hello everyone. Good morning to you all. I wish you all have a good week. So my name is Joyce and I'm from Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. So I serve as a new co-host for today's section. So let us start with a warm welcome to you to our weekly community practice. So Sunday check-in section for this half an hour of Dharma reflection and community connections. So if you are a new member of our community, please accept our wholeheartedly warm welcome to you. So we also welcome if any questions regarding to the practice for the topics, and we love to help. So this is customary for people in Australia to begin any meeting by acknowledging the tradition owners of our land. I would like to start today by acknowledging the Tarawa people as the traditional owners of the land on which Nantian Institute resides. I also acknowledge the traditional custodians of the various lands on which you all are. And I pay my respects to the elders in the past, present, and emerging. The check-in sections have been developed by our communities of practice team and the entire community. The purpose of these sections is to develop a reflective practice in response to changes. Guided by humanistic Buddhism, we would like to cultivate our practices and to build memorable friendships. So our facilitator today is Dr. Jonathan Page. So he is a medical oncologist and also a lecturer for Nantian Institute. And for today's section, we are grateful to have him to facilitate us on a good theme, namely in praise of sadness. So let's welcome Dr. Jonathan Page. Jonathan, the floor is yours.
Directions, living lives rich with emotion. So today we're going to focus a little more on experiential and affective parts of our lives, that is the underlying feelings and emotions and moods that we have all the time, but maybe not notice that often. In particular, I'm going to focus on the wonders of sadness. So I'm going to promote sadness. And I hope to explain just how central sadness can be to a flourishing and fulfilling life. So first, let's share the time together with a brief period of reflection and meditation. And we'll focus a little more on our emotions. So gently shut your eyes and let them soften and begin to relax. And with your mind, notice the posture of your body. Are there any points of discomfort or tightness or concern in your body? To elicit inner feelings and sensations, you may like to place the palm of your right hand over the heart area, that is the center of your chest and slightly to the left, which can enable the physical body to connect with the emotions that are inside ourselves, sometimes out of view. You may actually feel your own heartbeat. So within your sense of self, you may notice a certain feeling tone to your mood. And this may be positive. And sometimes we can ascribe other words. I've chosen buoyant, ebullient, and effulgent because it's important to describe our feelings and find words to do that. The tone may be negative. And I've chosen languorous and saturnine as interesting words, or neutral. So you may notice a particular emotion present. And this may have a predominant location in the body. The emotion may be subtle or strong. It may be a mixture of different feelings. It may be felt on the surface or perhaps deep down. It may be only recently apparent, or it may be present for some time and may even have become a companion or a close friend. There may be some associated physical sensations, such as warmth if your feeling is joy, or it may be aching if you have a broken heart. There may be some tearfulness if you're quite sad. And there may be certain thoughts and memories present as well. And of course, there may arise in your mind certain attitudes and judgment about your feelings. So there may be some disappointment resignation, shame, fearfulness, but there may also be joy, surprise, confidence. So slowly scan your body now from the head slowly down towards your toes, noticing areas of relaxation, areas that may be a little tense, and areas that may be associated with your feelings and emotions, such as the face, where a lot of emotion accumulates, perhaps the forehead, the eyes, or the throat, or the heart, or perhaps your tummy. So just take your attention now to the tip of your nose, to the nostrils, and begin to focus on the rhythm of your breath, of your wonderful breath, which continues day and night. No matter how you feel, it continues. But sometimes our feelings are reflected in our breath. So notice the air moving through the nostrils, perhaps feeling a little cool, filling the lungs. And then after a short pause, the air, all by itself, begins to escape through the nostrils, the air having warmed up from our body. And soon the lungs are empty, and there's another pause, and then, quite remarkably, the next breath arises all by itself. So just watch the rhythm of your own breath for the next minute, noticing at the same time any feelings that may arise. So when you're ready, you can slowly open your eyes. Again, notice any feelings or emotions or moods that may be present. Perhaps a new feeling that's arisen just during the meditation, or perhaps an older feeling that you've reconnected with. Now, to begin, I'm going to ask rhetorically, what is ordinary life? Because we often talk about feelings in our ordinary life. And are we referring to a conditioned life, or is life always ordinary? And perhaps it's more than ordinary. So I say that because the state of our life is reflected by our emotions and also influenced by our emotions. So in this ordinary life, which I'm claiming to be more than that, whether it's our spiritual life or not, we naturally may favour joy and our quest for happiness, more likely than concentrating on feelings of sadness. This seems natural, but we wonder, why would that be? Why would we not favour some degree of sadness? Sometimes we're a little embarrassed to feel sad or a bit uncomfortable. Sadness generally seems unpopular in our society. It's not promoted in the media as a rule. We're not encouraged to be sad. And indeed, sadness is sometimes a cause for concern, sometimes an indication that something has to be done, that an intervention is required, perhaps even some sort of therapy. We can move to the next slide. Yeah, so the Buddha frequently is depicted with a tear. And it is very moving to see the Buddha with all his experience and wisdom still connecting with us in our so-called ordinary lives with our sadness. Sometimes sadness seems to demand an apology. If we feel we may have caused someone else to be sad, we have to apologize. However, sometimes we strive too hard for pleasure. grasping mindlessly and often desperately towards any possible relief from what I'm calling dysphoria or sadness, without a necessary wise pause to carefully examine the underlying feelings that contain so much information. Strangely, with happiness, if it is achieved, it is often then immediately burdened with the feelings of isolation from our fellows who may not be happy. We find we are the only one happy. And then the disappointing knowledge that this happiness we now experience is to be transient. Now, I belatedly in my life discovered the joys of sadness some years ago during a silent retreat. And in that silent retreat, my beloved father, who had died when I was 15, long before most of you were born, but in those days when he died, there was a pervasive culture of emotional ignorance and an absence of compassion and ritual, which may not have changed for the better. I was 15, I had exams to complete, and thus I did not grieve, at least openly. We were encouraged to get on with normal life, so-called. But curiously, a perplexing and troubling sadness arose 25 years later that I didn't understand. And unfortunately, I did not give it due respect. But finally, on a retreat a few years ago, almost 50 years after my father had died, during a deep meditation, he came back vividly, but not to say goodbye. He came back to say, I'm here. And at that time, I felt overwhelming sadness and cried, fully realizing just how much I missed him 50 years later. And that sadness had been with me throughout my life. But remarkably, at the time I felt sadness, I also felt joy that he was back with me, and he still is. And I was quite amazed at the presence of sadness and joy at the same time. There's a wonderful poem on this topic called You Came Back, which I may read another time. But just yesterday, I was reading a book by a Vietnamese Buddhist nun, Sister Dang Niem, in her book Flowers in the Dark. She wrote about her long deceased beloved grandmother. She had little contact with her own parents. And in this dream, her grandmother returned at a time when she was desperately needed. And Sister Dang Niem says nothing had been lost. 35 years had passed, and to this day, grandmother continues to live within me, to guide me, to comfort me, and to heal me. So these are the potential discoveries in joy. So in conclusion, there are quiet virtues of sadness to be explored. Sadness is a vital component of love, compassion, and interbeing, with whom we share our sadness with other people. There is a powerful wisdom within sadness that bestows upon us deeply fulfilling life in communion with our other sentient beings. The Bodhisattva path, after all, depends upon sadness. Finally, I thought yesterday, sadness is but one facet on the diamond of universal love. And next week I will depict this diamond in an image of Indra's net. So now I think it's time, or maybe over time, to break up into groups and to share our various experiences, some of which may be evident on that slide. We'll meet back in about 15 minutes. Well, thank you, everybody, for returning from your various groups, and I hope you've had productive discussions. So this is our collective, unified view of the benefits of our time together today. Yes, love and care, teardrops, beautifully. So I thank everybody for these words that are going to be profuse, and at the very least, they bind us all together with this common deep feeling of sadness that we have for ourselves, for everybody who's present today and everybody else in this world. There's the need for sadness, But I think as we share sadness, we also realize there's joy that we have each other to share the sadness with. Yes, sadness of grief. Yes, the preciousness of being human and alive and with others at the same time who have the same emotions that we have. For people, other people have those feelings that we have, but may describe them in different ways. So they have that aching heart like we have. All right, Joyce, we may conclude the session now. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you, Jonathan. We really hope the check-in section was helpful to you, and we hope you experience the unconditional love and compassion from this community. But for anyone who might be experiencing a greater needs, that's what today can offer to meet. So please don't hesitate to get in touch with us through the email on the screen. And you can also reach out to the professional organizations displayed here. Okay, so there's two upcoming events to share with you all. So this one. So this event is organized by Australian Association of Buddhist Counselors and Psychotherapists. So this called Wisdom for a Modern World on 4th of September from 2 to 5. The time is 2 to 5 p.m. So the wisdom panels consist of Susan Moyen Combs, Pante Sojato, and our loved Venerable Dr. Joy. So you can register through the link in the brochure here stated there. So another event is a meditation section that will be guided by Dr. Jonathan Page on 19 September from 11 to 12. This is our routine Sunday check-in sections. So as we check out today, let's recite the dedication of merits together to send love and compassion to whoever in need.
Let us now dedicate the goodness of what you have done to all living beings. May kindness, compassion, joy, and equanimity pervade all worlds. May we cherish and build affinities to benefit all beings. May Chan, Pure Land, and precepts inspire equality and patience. May our gratitude and humility give rise to great vows.
Thank you everyone for joining us today. We hope that after today's section, we will have today's section, we actually have a good empirical experience and insight for our own private sadness. So now we will have our usual post-check-in discussion. So please stay with us if you have time. Otherwise, we'll see you next week at 11 on Sunday. So have a wonderful week ahead. Thank you.